God bless. All right, everyone. Welcome to the next installment of Jewish U. This is called, that's right, live it up, live it up. This is called From Possuk to Posek. I invented that term. I'm very proud of it. Or if you're smart, you can say from Possuk to Posek.
Yeah.
Or
what does that mean?
if you did English, it means from verse. It's not as exciting in English. That's why I invented it in the Hebrew. From verse to legal ruling. Sounds exceedingly boring, and it's not boring. But if you call it that, it sounds boring. So it's from Possuk to Posek. From Posuk means from the verse, meaning from the verse in the Torah, all the way to the Posek, means to the halachic decisors, those who make the halachic rulings for practical application of halacha. So what we're going to do a little bit, we can't do a full treatment because it's just the venue that we have tonight doesn't really allow us to do a full treatment. But we're going to do at least a partial treatment, and I hope it's going to be enjoyable for everyone, God willing, to see a little bit how you get from a pasuk, from a verse in the Bible, in the 5 books of Moses, how do you get to like an actual halacha, an actual Jewish law in the code of Jewish law, the Shulchan Aruch, which is something that we actually do. So tonight we're going to talk about Mezuzah, just because that's something that we're all familiar with, and I haven't really decided 100% if we're going to talk about Mezuzah for the entire Jewish U course, this 4-part course. If people do have, we could do Mezuzah the whole time, various different aspects and elements and interesting scenarios. And do you put a mezuzah if the door is curved? Do you put a mezuzah if there's only one doorpost, not 2 doorposts? Do you put a mezuzah if there's just a doorway, but there's not actually a door? What happens if the mezuzah falls off the door? All sorts of questions can come up. What happens if your roommate is not Jewish? All sorts of questions come up with regards to Mezuzah. So we could address it for all 4 classes, or you could leave it up to me to choose a different topic every week, or you could suggest to me if you have a specific area of Jewish law interested in seeing some of the development, how we can trace it back to the actual verse in the Torah. One second, Mati. I'm down for that. What's the suggestion?
Waiting between milk and meat.
Waiting between milk. That's a good one. That's an interesting one. Yeah. Okay. Maybe we'll get to that. Okay. So let's go. First, by way of introduction. Again, tonight is the Mezuzah edition. Mezuzahs are great. Everybody loves them. It's one of the most kept of all the 613 commandments, of all the 613 mitzvahs. You have a lot of Jewish people that may not consider themselves religious or observant in any capacity whatsoever, but they have a mezuzah, at least one on their home, at least. So it's a very common mitzvah. Yeah.
Do you think more people have mezuzahs or put on tefillin?
Mezuzahs.
Even with Chabad?
Even with Chabad.
you gotta work harder.
Even with Chabad. Interestingly, mezuzah is, mezuzah is much easier to do. You just put it on your door, and then it's there. And as we're maybe actually going to see tonight, once you've put up your mezuzah, you are now doing the mitzvah of mezuzah. How often? All the time, 24/7. You're doing the mitzvah once you put it up. Whereas with tefillin, for example, or really pretty much any other mitzvah, when you do the mitzvah, you do it, and then it's done. Purim is coming. We're going to hear the Megillah on Purim. Once you hear the Megillah, you did it. It's over. You don't continue it. You do it, and then you move on with your life. Whereas mezuzah, you affix the mezuzah to the doorpost as long as you do it in the proper location, which we're probably not going to get exactly to tonight. What is the proper location? But maybe another week. But once you do that, the mitzvah is ongoing. It's a remarkable mitzvah. So if you open up a mezuzah, now many people that I have met think that mezuzah equals the case of the mezuzah. That's a very common misunderstanding. I've encountered this many, many times. They go to the Judaic store and say, Rabbi, I got a mezuzah. Like, no, you didn't. You got a mezuzah case. It's empty. But Rabbi, I spent $200 on the case. Like, maybe you should have saved your money for the mezuzah itself. But in any event, good intentions are good, but we do need the actual mezuzah. So if you take a mezuzah, the actual scroll, and unroll it, what will you find?
First paragraph of Shema.
The Shema. That's right. We're going to find the Shema. Now, the first paragraph of the Shema contains within it 5 mitzvahs. That's 5 out of 613 commandments. What's the percentage? I have no clue. I almost failed out of math. So it contains 5 out of 613 commandments in the first paragraph. You got a percentage?
Less than 0.1.
Less than 1.1?
0.1.
Well, 6.6 would be about 1%.
5 out of 500 would be
Yeah.
1%. Oh, sorry, so it's less than 1%.
Okay, less than 1%.
Did you say 0.1?
And those 5 mitzvahs are contained within the first paragraph are number 1, to love Hashem. Separate question, by the way, just food for thought. How can you be commanded to love someone or something? How can you be commanded how to feel? You could be told what to do this and don't do that. Okay, maybe I like it, maybe I don't like it, but I could be commanded what to do. But how is it fair to command me how to feel? Like, you have to have a certain emotion. And if I don't, that's not the topic of tonight's class, but it's food for thought. You want to comment on that?
Yeah, I think that if you follow the Torah, you'll have the experiences needed in order to properly love Hashem in the proper manner.
Okay.
And so the whole point of that commandment is as a father is to supplement all the other mitzvot in the Torah and be like, do this and you'll be able to love me, and that's another mitzvah that you can do.
Okay. Very nice. Mitzvah number 1 in the Shema, which is in the paragraph of that we write in the Mezuzah, to love Hashem. Number 2, to learn Torah. Number 3, to accept the yoke of heaven, not Y-O-L-K. That would be too expensive because eggs through the roof. The yoke, Y-O-K-E. Accept the yoke of heaven every day and every night. How do you do that? Shema. That's right. You recite the Shema in the morning and you recite the Shema in the evening. That is the formal accepting the yoke of heaven. Mitzvah number 4, wear tefillin if you're a man over the age of bar mitzvah. Number 5, mitzvah for everybody, mezuzah. Put a mezuzah up. Okay, that's my little introduction. Let's now take a look at the verse. You can look on the source sheet if you want. Deuteronomy. Why is it called Deuteronomy? Which book of the 5 books is Deuteronomy, by the way?
It's for dudes.
For dudes. How did you know that?
Like Matthew is a dude.
What?
Okay.
Ask her, she said it.
Is it Dvarim?
It's Devarim, right. So the 5th book of the Torah is called Devarim, or I would say Devarim.
Thanks.
Devarim. But in English, not actually English, it's called Deuteronomy. Why is it called Deuteronomy in English? What's the English for Bereshit? Genesis. Why is it called Genesis? The beginning, right? Bereshit means the beginning. Genesis is beginning, creation. That's what we read about in the book of Genesis, right? Book of Exodus. What's it called in Hebrew? Shmos. What does Shmos mean? Exodus. Wrong. What does Shmos mean? Names. But in English, English/Latin, we call it Exodus. Why is it called Exodus? Because we left Egypt. Okay. Why it's not called names instead? Think about it. Book number 3 of the Torah is Leviticus. That was good. You had like the emotion, the passion. Leviticus in Hebrew, Vayikra, which means, and he called. And he called, let's just call it Leviticus. It's easier to remember. Why is it called Leviticus?
All these names belong on gravitas.
So it's a for gravitas. That's, by the way, one of my favorite words to use. Whenever I can, I sneak that word into casual conversation. Yeah, because it's just There's a certain gravitas that the word has.
Is that even?
Why is it called Vayikra? Why is it called Leviticus? Something like that, right? Vayikra, the book of Vayikra, talks about basically the laws of the tribe of Levi, also known as the Kohanim, and all the sacrificial rites. So it's called Leviticus. Book number 4, Bamidbar, means
The desert.
in the desert. In English, it's called Numbers.
Wait,
Wait a second. Because there's a census, right? Only place there's a census? Are there more censi?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Think about that. 5th book is Devarim, which means
Anything?
things. In English / Latin, it's called Deuteronomy.
Is it like ending?
That's a good guess, but no.
What is Deuteronomy?
Deuteronomy means repetition.
Mm.
Another name, one second, another name for the book of Devarim is the Mishnah Torah, the repetition. Because basically the 5th book is repetition of the first 4 books, more or less. You had a question or comment?
You said Leviticus. I thought the tribe of Kohanim are different from Levi.
Yeah, that's a good question. A Kohen is different from a Levi, but really the Kohen comes from the tribe of Levi.
Every Cohen is also a Levi, but not every Levi is a Cohen.
Right, so-
Cohen is a subset of Levi.
Anyone from our.
That's why it says in Kabbalah that when the Rizal says that when Mashiach comes, a Levi will become a Kohen. So in a sense, that it's not that complicated because he's in a sense kind of already is a Kohen in a sense. It's the same tribe. Okay. Anyway, let's read our verse. It says, Uksaf. Tom, this is the commandment to have a mezuzah. Okay, right here, top of the page, from Possuk to Posek. Deuteronomy, which is chapter 6, verse 9, Deuteronomy, also known as Devarim. Uksav Tom al mezuzos beisecha uvish arecha. And thou shalt write them upon the doorposts of thy house and on thy gates. Let's break it
Very
up.
fancy.
Thank you. That's the Koran English translation. Let's break it down one word at a time. What does this verse mean to do? What should you do with this verse? Which mitzvah is this verse? Mezuzah. Okay. Uchtabtam means
Right then.
you should write. Write what?
Them.
Them. Shkoyach. Write them. Huh?
Like these mitzvot.
Okay, good. These mitzvah. What kind of writing? Like I could make an artistic representation. What kind of writing is it? English, French, Latin, Hebrew. Which language does it say? Does it say
Hebrew?
Hebrew? Well, yeah.
I think it would have specified.
Huh?
I think it would have specified further if it wasn't in the. It just says Uktabtam.
Okay.
It said like Uktabtam. Down me, you know.
And where do we do the writing?
On the mezuzah.
Oh,
And on the shop.
on the doorposts. Did you ever see anybody come, a sofer, a scribe come and write these words, whatever these words are, on the doorpost?
No.
You never saw it. It says to do that. Uksavtam al mezuzos beisecha. Write these words on the doorposts of your home. You never saw anybody do it. You sure?
Is it not where the Pharisees?
What?
The one who does the other face.
Yeah, those guys who do the other things did all sorts of things. In fact, even in the Dead Sea Scrolls in Qumran, they found mezuzahs that had the wrong passages in them because they had a variant or vagrant tradition that was wrong. That was outside of the pale of Judaism. Same with the Sadducees. They had certain traditions that were outside of the pale of Judaism. So you're writing them on the doorpost, but we're not actually writing them on the doorposts. Yeah.
What century is that from that they found?
I don't know. I'm not good at history. I'm sorry.
What I was saying, how do you know that one was wrong? And the one not wrong, maybe we're wrong.
Well, that's the whole purpose of your class.
Right. That's actually kind of what we're trying to get to.
Okay.
Is the tradition and the consistency of the traditions
Oh, it's a good
of the
question.
law. It's a great question. The consistency of the traditions and the laws and the transmission of those laws and all sourced back to the original verse. So savta means you should write. So the rabbis understood that to mean write in the normal way that one would write. So you don't write, so you write on parchment, on paper. That's the way to write. You don't write on stone, you engrave in stone. You don't write on stone. So the writing means the normal way that you would write, which is with ink on parchment. It's the normal way to write.
Not like write as in a hard drive, which is technically engraven.
I guess it's technically engraving, isn't it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
They literally have like a needle that writes. It like engraves all the data into the hard drive.
Another thing is that the sages also read this verse, this word, uchsavtam. They read it as a compound word. It's actually two words in one. Anybody figure out what the two words in one are? In the first word, uchsavtam, uchtavtam. It's actually two words squished into one. What are the two words?
Kotev lachem.
Very close.
Lachem.
Close. Uchtav, right? Tam.
Simple.
Or tam.
Simple or simple could also mean Tam could mean like the son, right, or the child. Tam means simple. Tam could also mean, I guess, simple maybe is a good translation. It's hard to hear you. I'm sorry.
Word. Like Shema. That's a simpler version of something.
Right, but this is the font, if you will. The font should be pure, simple. It should be even, so to speak. It should be a certain style of writing. Now, al mezuzos, you see how it's spelled? Mem zayin with the shuruk, or no, so it's a kubutz or a shuruk under there. Remember?
Which one? Caboose, cause like it's like footsteps, like boots. That's how I remembered it in first grade.
Oh, good mnemonic. Yeah, got a kubutz under the zayin,
Yep.
then another zayin, then a vav, then a saf. You could have spelled it mem zayin, add another vav in, and no, but you're thinking in the right direction. Mem zayin, it could have been a vav, then a zayin, and another vav and a saf. By the way, when it comes to a sofer writing a Torah, for example, a Torah scroll, or a pair of tefillin, the halacha actually is that he's not allowed to write from memory. Not allowed to. He has to write from what nowadays we call it a tikkus. He has to write from, how do you say it? Proto. There's got to be basically the word for this, right?
A template? Yeah.
He has to write. He has to copy a template.
I mean, there's also a certain amount of letters per line.
Right. Now, that halacha applies to writing a Torah and writing tefillin. Does not technically apply to writing a mezuzah. Why? Because the rabbis figured everybody knows what it says in a mezuzah. So we don't require the scribe to write, to copy from a template.
I think Megillah Esther is also good.
Megillah Esther, the halachas are much more lenient, yes.
Yeah.
However, even though the rabbis said that technically we assume you know what it says in the mezuzah, and therefore a scribe does not have to copy a template. However, we recommend it. It is the common practice because of words like mezuzot. What's unique about the word mezuzot? It's missing a letter. Which letter is it missing? I kind of gave it away already. It's missing a vav. Now, we can pronounce it. We just put that kubutz. We put the kubutz in, so it sounds the same. Mezuzot, but there could have been a vav instead. There is a second vav. Why? Why only one vav? What?
Plural. You always put the vav plural, don't you?
Well, yes, it is plural. How many doorposts does a door have? Two.
Only goes.
How many doorposts does a doorpost have? A doorpost would have doors. How many doorposts does a door have? Jesse answers correctly. I hope everybody can answer this question correctly. Two doorposts. One on the right, one on the left. The top is not a doorpost, that's called a lintel. Right?
Lentil.
All obvious.
Lentils. That was the class we spoke about the Yaakov and Esau and the red lentils. It wasn't really red. How it's red.
That's okay.
So how many mezuzahs did you put up? It says to put them on the doorposts.
Yeah, but it says only one door, there's one door.
But it says there's two doorposts.
Yeah, we should only.
How do you know that?
It's how much
There's
the
one
plural of your.
Thank you, Paige. You guys have to listen to Paige.
What she said.
Well, you have to listen to her and you'll know what she said.
Page, can you say about it?
Okay, but I need silence, ready?
There's one. You're getting a call.
You're getting a call.
Oh, well, we have Torah class going on right now. I don't answer phone calls
Who is
during
it,
Torah
Deb?
class unless.
Oh, I think it's Rabbi Heller. He took our son.
It's okay. I actually
I
don't
just wanna
answer the
make sure I
phone
didn't call.
during a class unless it's my wife or my children. That is the rule. Okay, can we get back on track? Thank you. The phone calls don't matter because we're learning Torah. That's why God created voicemail, and text messaging. You can leave a message, send a text message. I'll call you back. Don't worry about it. Torah is much more important than a phone call. Okay, so yes, the reason why, even though we have two doorposts, we don't put up a mezuzah on each one, even though it says write them on your doorposts. And like Jesse correctly pointed out, this word is plural. So maybe I should have two mezuzahs, one on the right, one on the left. But no, as Paige correctly points out, that's why the word mezuzot is missing one vav. Because you only need on one doorpost. Not on both doorposts. Because the door has two doorposts, but you only need one mezuzah. Good? Beisecha, your house. What's a house? Give me some descriptions of what's a house. Not philosophical
Your
descriptions.
abode. Walls.
Don't be philosophical.
Walls, doors.
Your abode. Maybe you're actually right. Huh? Walls, doors, roof. Good. Those are all correct. If your house doesn't have those, it's not really a house.
You can have one. Wait.
Don't get full.
Yeah.
Don't get philosophical. We'll get philosophical later, maybe.
Yeah, 3 walls and a roof, according to the sukkah.
Okay. Do you need a mezuzah on a sukkah?
No.
No. Oh, because it's temporary. So a house, a beisecha, your house must be permanent.
Ooh, he said not to get philosophical though.
Just stop with the philosophy. Stop it. You guys all never saw the we used to have this sukkah on a bike. We made a video of it years ago, and we spoke about this in the video. But anyway, it's like a 2-minute video.
Fine.
So beisecha, your house has a certain descriptive, has certain definition to it. It needs walls. It needs a roof. It needs to be permanent. It has to be designed for living in. So like a random shack somewhere that's used for storage, maybe it doesn't need a mezuzah because nobody lives in it. It's not designed for living. Perhaps doesn't need a mezuzah. What about a shul? Does a shul need a mezuzah?
Yes.
Yes.
You should let her stay there.
So.
Paige has an interesting point. Paige says, in the olden times, people used to live in the shul. Or somebody, usually a shamash, like someone who, the beadle, would take care of the shul. Might live there. Okay, good. Does a shul need a mezuzah? Is a shul a house?
I feel like you
It's
were
a
trying to
house
be
for
like.
Hashem.
Binyamin's saying no.
It's a
Dylan
house
says
for-
a house for Hashem. You're both correct.
What about
Hashem need a mezuzah?
What about this house?
I mean, I don't know. Do we consider the
Everyone's
Aron
a
with the Torah as a mezuzah?
Hashem for sure needs a house. He says in last Torah portion, "V'osu li mikdash," make a house for me. Hashem needs a house. What that means exactly, we're not going to get philosophical right
So what about this house?
What about this house?
No one lives here. So is it a house?
Yes. Okay. So, what about a shul?
Is it an abode?
Is it an abode? That's Daniela's question.
I meant this house, Chabad house. No one
Of course,
lives
it's an
there.
abode.
There's a fridge. If there's a fridge.
If there's a fridge,
Then these.
Wi-Fi.
if there's a fridge and Wi-Fi, then
Good.
you're good.
A home is where there's Wi-Fi.
I see this as the generation we live in.
And harissa.
Chicken.
So 1 second, you put mezuzahs on the doorways, on the mezuzah of your doorway, meaning mezuzah really means the doorpost. So you put your mezuzah on the mezuzah, but only one of them. What?
Why are you calling it a mezuzah if that's the name of the door?
No clue. I want to know the same thing.
I don't really get how did they get from, okay, there's a vav missing, that must mean that we must only put one.
That's an excellent question. That's an excellent
That's the
question.
point of this class.
That's an excellent question. There is a system, a highly precise and specific system within the Torah of the rules of what to do when you read the Torah and how to understand and interpret different things that happen in the Torah. For example, repetition. There are rules about how to understand what does repetition mean. There are rules about how to understand when words seem to be extraneous. There are all sorts of rules that are used to interpret the Torah. So one rule is called yitur, means extra. If there's an extra word, extra sentence, or even an extra letter, that is begging us, please interpret me. And vice versa as well. If it's a chaser, if it's missing a letter, like in the case of mezuzos, it's again saying, hey, I wonder why the Torah was written missing a vav, even though it has the second vav, 1 second. And in other instances, there is a vav, there isn't a vav. It could go different ways. You have the same thing, by the way, with the letter vav, with the wells. You remember the wells of Avraham? Avraham dug wells. And then it says his son Isaac, Yitzchak, redug the wells because the Plishtim guys filled up Avraham's wells. Yitzchak came along and dug the same wells, and he gave them names. The Torah tells us, Shemot, Shin Mem Vav Tov. It adds the letter Vav, whereas with Avraham it's missing a Vav. So there, we're going to get philosophical now just for a second. There it says because Avraham's wells that he dug didn't have the same spiritual hold, the same spiritual achievement as the wells that Yitzchak dug. Because Yitzchak digging a well means that for a person to dig beneath the surface of their persona, to find the water within the person, the flow and the source of life within the person's personality, within their soul. Yitzchak didn't do it for you. Avraham did it for you. And when someone does something for you, it doesn't last. That's why the Plishtim filled up his wells. Because the spiritual achievement that he did, it didn't last because he just did it for you. Whereas Yitzchak said, you want a well? Here's a shovel. I'll show you how to dig. Yitzchak forced people to work, to do the spiritual work on their own. And since they did it on their own, it says names with the extra vav to show that vav is a straight line. Straight line shows drawing down spiritual energy into the well so it lasted, it had a permanent effect. So every extra word, extra letter, extra sentence, extra paragraph, or missing letter, etc., is calling out to be interpreted. Now, how do we know how to interpret it? Maybe it needs something else. That part of this is a locked science. Meaning what we know today in 2025 is that the missing vav here must mean something. I don't know what it means, but it must mean something. Because I follow the rules. Missing letters are missing for a reason. You with me so far? However, what that interpretation is a locked science. And today, we don't know that anymore. In the days of the Talmud, the sages knew. They saw, oh, extra letter, missing letter, you know what? This is what it means. So in those days, it was not a locked science. It was available to them to know how to interpret it. So nowadays, all we know is that it needs to be interpreted. But we don't know how to interpret it anymore. But in a sense, it doesn't matter because the sages already interpreted it.
But isn't it in the Mishnah already, like written how it is?
Is it what?
Like how we put it on in the Mishnah?
Well, all the laws of Mezuzah are found in the Talmud, right? A lot of them are here in the book of Yuma. Many of them are in the book of Menachos and various other places through the Talmud. Yes, 100%. And then we come down all the way through the Maimonides. So I have a passage of Maimonides here, and the Torah, various other codes until we get to the Shulchan Aruch, the code of Jewish law, which has the practical codification of the laws that everybody follows. If you want to know how to put up your mezuzah nowadays, you would look in here. Or you'd look in an English modern day book, or you'd ask your rabbi, oh, do I put it on this door? Or I have a small doorway leading up to my attic. Does that need a mezuzah? Things like that. You'd look in the Code of Jewish Law. But yes, it's all sourced back really to our verse. And once you have Beisecha, your house, what does your gates add to that? Your house and your gates. Which gates?
Is it the gates of your house because you've already established that base is like specifically your house? The gates of your.
It's a good guess. Yeah. Jesse, you want to say something?
Well, I don't know, when you say missing Vav, is it like that it's spelled differently in other places, or that it's like they just usually would be above there, but there's never like, is it ever spelled with two Vavs?
Yeah. Like probably if you were reading like a modern Hebrew book about mezuzah, it would be spelled with two vowels. Mezuzah would be with two vowels. Or looking, I don't have a siddur in front of me. Anybody have a siddur? Look on if you have a siddur on your phone, maybe. Look at a siddur and see how it's spelled in your siddur. Anybody have a siddur app? I don't have a siddur with me right now. Oh, running to get the siddur app.
I'm my sitter.
Let's see. I hope I'm right, by the way. I really hope I'm right.
Where?
You got one Vav in this one.
I really hope I'm right. You have one Vav?
Yeah. See the other sitter app.
But I think in a
I'm getting
sitter is
nervous
gonna
now.
be on the Possuk.
I'm getting nervous.
My app.
One
Yeah.
Vav.
Mine also has one Vav.
This one is an
But
art.
that makes sense because they're spelling it exactly
Yeah.
the way it's spelled in the
Yeah.
Torah. Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
got
that-
one, I
'cause that
got
was
like.
kind of my favorite, because like I'm sure that there are lots of words that like
Why don't we go?
could have a Vav here for the whole sound, but they just don't.
Right. So,
So, like, why
the question is
this
why
one
not?
Special.
Because you could spell it with a Vav, and it would sound the same and mean the same.
I'll
But I
put
mean,
it into
like,
Google
there's
Translate.
lots of other words.
And they'll all be interpreted in the Talmud. Every single one of them.
Okay.
There's nothing extra. The Torah, this is one of the rules of before a person approaches the Torah, they have to know the rules. It's like anything you do, you have to know the rules of the game, right? If you're playing baseball, if you're playing piano, if you're
Here, if you put
whatever
it in
you're
Google
doing.
Translate, it has the two V's.
Oh, there you
Modern
go.
Hebrew.
Google's right.
Modern Hebrew.
I
Mezuzot.
can't see that far, but
You just have to
take your
trust me.
word for it,
You have
yeah.
to trust me. Now let's erase this. So what are we saying now? Oh.
Why the extra Vav?
So it could be spelled with the extra vav. Therefore, the sage wanted to know, so why isn't it? Does it change the meaning? No. It's pronounced the same. It means the same exact thing. Good, so that strengthens the question even more. Why did they take one vav out but leave the second vav in? Because they could have taken both vavs out. And it still would have meant the same thing and sounded the exact same. Nothing would change at all. So one vav, not two vavs. Could have taken out both vavs. Or could have put in both vavs. But no, only one vav. That must mean something. What does it mean exactly? I don't know what it means. But at the times of the Talmud, the sages then had an open view of it. The path to heaven was open to them. They had an open vision and were able to understand how to interpret it. So Visharecha, your gates, means that there's other doorways as well that a person may encounter. Not the doorways of your home, the doorways of your city. You've been to the old city in Jerusalem, right? Yeah? You've been to the old city in Jerusalem, Jaffa Gate, Shar Yafo? Do you know what? Huh?
Does that have a mezuzah?
Yes, it absolutely has a mezuzah. That's right. Can you picture it? Jaffa Gate has a mezuzah in it.
Picture the gate, I don't remember seeing it.
All Mezuzahs are made out of I don't know, it's posted, I don't know, there's a whole story behind it.
Oh,
Like,
wait.
That
mezuzah?
mezuzah? There are bullet holes there, for sure. Of course, but for 1948.
There's something about.
I think that's
Shartzia. One of the gates.
Both, Shartzia for sure.
I remember what it was about.
They blasted in during the war.
Right.
In the 67, and that's how they got through, and that's how the bullet holes are there.
That's Bisharecha, your gates. The gates of your cities. Cities were walled, not all cities. Many cities were walled. They had a gate to the entrance to the city. They closed the doors at night. That's the entrance. That's an entrance.
Around their house, they could have been society.
That's a good question. If you put a fence around your house, you put a mezuzah on it.
If it's, I guess, like a door, right? Maybe.
Oh, if it's a doorway, indeed, then you really might actually need a mezuzah. Meaning if there's just two door posts, you need also a lintel. You need the top. To your backyard.
Are door posts defined by lintel? Are they only door posts when there's a lintel?
No,
Because
no, that's a good question. No, they're doorposts. They're doorposts.
Are they door posts labeled the door?
What if there's two posts? Those aren't door posts.
Is that not a gate?
Those are pillars.
Lots of questions. Okay, pillars. There's lots of questions that
Does
went on.
Stonehenge need a mezuzah?
Well, this is the ones that I'm.
If it did, we would have gone already and put mezuzahs there.
They would have gotten taken down.
It's not a, it's not a hard, it's a doorway, but it's not for living. That's the.
Oh, very good. Not for living. It has to be an abode.
Oh, see?
Back to the abode.
Like,
I'm gonna get.
I got the fingers. Does that have anything to do with that? I don't think
I don't
so.
know.
I'm gonna get a little bit dark here.
Okay, go for it.
Would the gates of Auschwitz need a mezuzah? It's not meant for living. It technically is, but it also is meant for dying.
Oh my god.
So that is indeed a very morbid question, but the answer is no, because it's owned by
But
Gentiles.
it's so Auschwitz, like, yeah, this is.
Crazy question.
You guys. It's a question.
I guess it makes sense.
It's a question. There's an answer.
Yeah.
But it's not permanent, or you hope that it's not permanent.
What about funeral classrooms? You don't live in a classroom.
You don't live in a classroom.
So are all the classrooms that Jewish schools?
That's the question. Back to the synagogue question also, right? Does the synagogue need?
You know, like they live there, they live in a Jewish
I
house.
live in this one.
So we can. put
I
all this
would.
in.
It was so- It's nice.
Station.
Oh, that's good.
For 6 months by mistake when you thought it was gonna be a 3-day journey. Just hypothetically. Yeah.
What if you're living on a boat?
Yeah, it's anything like that. I would
Always.
So the answer is no. You don't need a mezuzah on a boat. A boat is not a house.
What if the house?
What if
was-
it's your house?
That might be different. That might be different. If it's a house boat, that might be, by the way, houseboats. I remember we were in Vancouver a number of years ago where I was born and our family's from. They have actual houseboats. They're like houses. They just happen to be
Yeah, what about?
in the water.
What about a mitzvah tank? What about a mitzvah tank?
No, that's what I think.
Look at
Yeah.
the mitzvah.
See, the second things that are to worry about. All comes back to Savtom al Mezuzos Beisechel Visharecha. We don't tonight. We're not able to trace it all back, but it's all. We're gonna next week. We'll go into some of the more primary sources, into the Talmud, into the Rambam, the Maimonides, and so forth. I even had the Rambam over here. I got the English one. We're gonna have someone read it. We don't have time for that tonight. But I just got distracted. What was your question?
What if you live in an RV?
Yeah, RV. So RV is a vehicle. It does not need a mezuzah. However, if that RV was your home and actually served the van life or this and like this, like it's supposed to be really awesome, but really it's actually horrible or something like that. You want to live in a van. Well, why would you do that?
I don't know, I've seen like YouTube
I do
videos
that.
of like people living.
What?
It saves you.
Okay, I hear.
It saves you a lot of money
Right.
so long as you don't
Right.
buy the expensive stuff.
No, Monty's right. There's positives and negatives to everything, 100%.
And not
Okay.
to warn them, mezuzah.
So yeah, if your van was like actually your home, like a full functioning RV with your little kitchen set up over there and your bed set up and like the toilet in the back or whatever it is that an RV has, you might need a mezuzah on it, yeah?
Does that mean you don't have a home to go back to, or you're just living?
So like that is.
No, if you're like
How
a
many
rich
months
person
do
and
you
have
find
5
out?
homes, they all need mezuzahs, even if you only live in one of them. And the home in London, I only go on the second week of December, it doesn't matter.
How many days in the RV do you consider home?
I don't know. In general in halacha, 30 days is considered a certain amount of permanence. That's actually why when you move into an apartment, if you're renting, you actually have 30 days to put up a mezuzah. Unless you, number one, purchase. If you purchase a home, you have to put up the mezuzah right away because then there's a permanence to it. Or number two, if you're renting in Israel, you also have to put a mezuzah immediately if it's in Israel. Different halacha in Israel, yeah.
What is the rule around if you buy a home, but you rent it out to non-Jews?
That's an excellent question. So the Talmud discusses this in the context of checking for chametz. Of course it does. Because in the Talmud, everything is integrated. Everything is connected. Everything relates. So the Talmud asks the question, what if I own a house and I don't live there because I'm renting it out to whoever? I don't want to check that house for chametz before Pesach. I got to check my own house for chametz. So the Talmud asks, who is obligated according to halacha to check that rental? You, the owner, or the renter? It's the same question you just asked. The Talmud then asks the next question. And who's obligated to put up a mezuzah? You, the owner, or the renter? It's the same question. You hear?
Yeah.
So the Talmud says the obligation is on the renter to check for chametz, and the obligation is on the renter to affix the mezuzah.
So would you, if you say you bought the house and you live in it now, but then down the line, you buy another house and you move there, but you keep the old house to rent, but the mezuzahs are already up, you just leave them or you take them off because now some Gentiles will be there?
If you're renting to a Gentile, you would take down mezuzah beforehand, yes.
It's like a lot of
But
old,
actually, if you're renting to a Jew, you're not allowed to take the mezuzahs down.
So there's like a problem with having a mezuzah up that's like not being like used.
No, not really.
So
Not really.
then why can't I just leave them up?
You can.
For the non-Jews?
No.
Why not?
Well, how much history between Jews and Gentiles should we get into right now? How much anti-Semitic content do you want tonight?
We already had one.
No, I just want like, if they're, then it's like the same as if it was in a house that like you only go to once a week. Because
It's not the same because if it's your house and you live there, you're just not living there right now. You're obligated to have mezuzah. Because the verse says, have it on the doorpost of your home. That's your home. But if you're renting it, then it's the renter's obligation to put up a mezuzah. And if the renter is a Gentile, Gentiles don't need mezuzahs, so you take the mezuzah down.
Okay.
There's even a whole discussion later in the Code of Jewish Law, maybe we'll get there. What if you are scared to have mezuzah outside your door? Because there was a thing called pogroms. You may have heard of pogroms before, right? There's a whole discussion about this. But in any event, that's all for tonight.
Just go ahead.
Thanks for coming. And to be continued.
So much.
Oh my.
What?
I wanted to like.
So the basic
Be reminded
definition,
for
one second. The basic requirement for mezuzah is it goes on the right side of your doorway upon entering. We didn't get into why the right side, but we'll talk about that later.
you sleep.
Okay, we didn't get into that today. I have some resources for that. On the
It's good spiritually.
what?
Right side is good spiritually. No?
Yeah, so then why do you put the mezuzah on the left side? Then why do you put the menorah on the left side? Because the mezuzah is on the right side. What happens if you don't have mezuzah for some reason? What happens if you don't have mezuzah? Do you put the menorah on the right side? Think about it. But the mezuzah goes on the right side of the doorpost upon entering. There's a difference between Sephardim and Ashkenazim. Sephardim put it straight like this. Ashkenazim put it at a diagonal like that. That's actually, maybe we'll get into that one week, why we do that. Same thing with the Torah scroll. Sephardim did the Torah scroll standing up. Ashkenazim did the Torah scroll at an angle lying down. And it has to be in the upper third of your doorway. If you check our mezuzahs here on the Chabad house, you will see it's precise because I measured. Upper third, but at least a tefach, at least a hand's breadth from the top. At least. So even if it's too high, as long as it's not too high, it's still okay. And you do not put a mezuzah on the entrance to a room that is not respectable, such as a bathroom. Or if the room is too small, because then if it's too small, can't really live there, it's too small. And there's measurements, not what the size, but not for tonight. That's pretty much the basics for most questions of mezuzah. Then you get into complicated questions. If the door is shaped like this, or if the door is shaped like this, or if you have a small door, if you have a big door, right? If you have a huge door, where does mezuzah go? At eye level, or do you put it all the way up to the top? All different questions and discussions about these things. But that's the basics. So yeah, on your front door, on the door to your kitchen, on the door to your bedroom, et cetera, et cetera.
What about a large walk-in closet?
A large walk-in closet, depends how large. Yeah.
I wanted to just make a Thursday announcement.
Go ahead, Martin.
No.
Oh, I thought you were raising your hand. Okay, thanks, everyone. We're gonna have an announcement, and thanks for coming. Next week again, we'll continue, I think, with Mezuzah. It seems like there's lots of questions on Mezuzah. Maybe we'll do some more. I have all these sources, by the way, that I prepared over here, and we didn't really get into them. So maybe we'll get into them next week.